Let's get together to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hey, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance today. Welcome to FESIG 77th meeting. Today is the 3rd of June, 2020. Yes, it's very interesting times we're going through, but the show goes on in FESIG. So today we have two very interesting speakers back to back with one particular very interesting subject, and that's crop circles. Right, so I'm going to start sharing screen so we can see the agenda for the meeting. I'm going to share screen in a moment. Okay, here we go. FESIG is the Free Energy Special Interest Group, a platform where science meets spirituality. It is a place where scientists, researchers, inventors, developers, and enthusiasts of free energy get together to exchange ideas, to share breakthroughs in their developments of free energy and healing technologies to move forward. So it is a very, as I said before, very exciting times, and the show must go on because this is very much needed by humanity. So this 77th meeting, we have two very special speakers. I'm Crystal Gore, I'm the chair, and the co-chair is Dr. Fres Brezel. Although we do have the other co-chairs here as well, James Rink and Pontus Hefger, or we take turns sometimes when the other is tired or couldn't make it. So this FESIG meeting is very special because we have with us in the first session Patti Greer, who is a prominent Crop Circle and UFO filmmaker, whose movies received 8 prestigious awards, including 5 EBEs at the International UFO Congress Convention. Her films offer unrelenting evidence and explosive footage of crop circles being produced by spinning plasma fields that appear to humans as balls of light, and other things like she will be talking about how crops from this crop circles could yield from 30% to 400%. Wow, it's really so amazing. Okay, and the second session, I think finished with Patty's talk and a Q&A session in the first session. Then we would adjourn to the second session where Umberto Baudo, who's an Italian inventor, but who believes in crop circles, who believes that crop circles are models for generating free energy. He holds a patent for the SDS security drive system. He used crop circles as blueprints to help design new magnetic motors. He's a public speaker appearing on television and in many conferences and congresses as well, same as Patti, who's these two are famous. So after we've done the Q&A on the second session, we then adjourn the meeting to the 78th FESIG meeting on the 1st of July. And speakers are to be confirmed. All right. So if you want to write to me, write to Crystal at truevisionofpeace.com, and our website is truevisionofpeace.com /FESIG.html. So I will take you very quickly to the website. This is our website. Okay, so we will feature speakers as every month. We have 2 special speakers. Okay, when we feature them with their links, like I had announced in this website, Patti Greer, just hover your mouse over her name and click on it. It takes you to her website. You can study all that you want to know about what the speaker's talking about and how things are being done and all that. It's all through this website, physics website, and same goes with Umberto. And it carries forth onto the report down there. Once they're finished with this month's speaking and new speakers come up, it just scrolls down, and you just scroll down the page and you get to the bottom where you see the reports are there, along with all the links will not be lost. Okay, so notice to attend the meeting. If you click on that, will take you down and you get all the details from further down on the page. So the description, the speakers are all there, and the pictures as well. And then we have our physics regular activity. Every Monday we have our special R&D meeting, developing free energy devices. We have about 3 up our sleeves right now, and it is so exciting, folks. And if you click on then the speaker's name, it takes you to their website and their YouTube channels, whatever that they have, okay? So scroll down, and you see like we have our last speakers, Oriana was speaking, very interesting subject on the Himalayan perspective of torsion physics and so on and so forth. And Janice also was talking a lot about the dangers of radiation, which is so appropriate during these times, you know, 5G being a trigger for the COVID as a radiation sickness and so on and so forth. Sometimes we have our group meeting, okay? And if you scroll down, you see all the speakers, all the brilliant speakers that we have in physics. Thank you, all of you who participated in presenting in physics. So that's it. Okay, so now I would like to introduce Patti. Patti is a very accomplished woman, a woman of substance. Patti Greer is a prominent UFO filmmaker who produced 8 full feature Crop Circle and UFO films in record time, within 10 years. Her movies received 8 prestigious awards, including 5 EBEs at the International UFO Congress Convention. Her films offer unrelenting evidence and explosive footage of crop circles being produced by spinning plasma fuels that appear to humans as balls of light. Greer's conclusion, after visiting more than 100 UK crop circles personally, producing 8 films, and visiting the lab of the great scientist William Levengood, is that crop circles are produced by counter-rotating spinning plasma vortices coming out of the earth. They are not coming from the sky. Patti kept emphasizing that in her films. Her film, the final film, Crop Circle Diaries, explains how crop circle seeds are growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. Wow, this is so fascinating. Her 8th film, Crop Circle Diaries, received 2 EBE awards at the 2017 International UFO Congress for Best UFO Feature Film and People's Choice Award. So there you go, Patti, over to you. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us to speak today. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting me. And any opportunity I get lately to speak with a group of brilliant people is kind of like being invited to a chocolate buffet. You know, our brains are so hungry now, and we're so disregarded as conspiracy theorists by people that have known us for decades. I don't know about you guys, but most of the people I know are pretty scared when I open my mouth. So I've learned to choose my friends more wisely, and I love to be on shows because the hosts and you guys, you know, we can carry on these conversations about what's really going on in the world behind closed doors. I did notice that you work with Global BEM, who I absolutely adore. Yes. And I went to their event in 2013 in Boulder, Colorado, maybe 2015, and I made this film, The Shift Has Hit the Fan. And what's neat about this, is that most of the people I interviewed, Sasha Stone, Dr. David Martin, Michael Tellinger, all of them are really happening now on screen, you know, on YouTube. And everything that I'm watching them say, which is brilliant, they said 5 years ago in this movie. So you haven't seen my name at any of the events, even though all of them are closed, because I pushed the button a little too far at the end of 2017, and something horrible happened. And I don't know who did it, but I know that I got hit with a very bad weapon and fell to the ground at the airport. And I've been recovering now for 3 years. But I was clearly told to quiet down about what I knew about crop circles. And so I did. And I was so completely told to quiet down that I also deleted all my social media history so that I didn't have to deal with any further retribution for being honest. Everybody know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to tell you straight up from the beginning is the reason I'm dangerous is because I'm an experiencer of crop circles. I'm not a researcher. I didn't read any of the books of other people that perhaps are or are not telling the truth about crop circle science. I was never interested. I was dealing with a terrible mercury poisoning in 2004, and doctors aren't allowed to help you with mercury poisoning in my country, America. And I was so desperate to heal that I went and laid in a crop circle. That's how desperate I was, is how my story went in the beginning, which was 2006. So I flew over to England with my hands in gloves. I've got still today, 16 years later, cuts all over the shredded fingertips. So I don't play harp anymore professionally. But all these stages of our lives push us to the next. And had I continued to be a musician, I would have never known that I could make these movies without any research. And when I say without any research, I really mean it. I went to the crop circles, and the first one I walked into in 2006 on a rainy day, all of a sudden I was 10, 20 feet from something because every ounce of my body lit up like a blowtorch, and the little teeny hairs on my arms were standing up. So I was walking into some kind of an enhanced electromagnetic field, which was so palatable that even I turned around and looked at my teenage daughter, and she goes, "Yeah, Mom, I feel it." And then I looked at the other lady that we followed to drive there, who's still a good friend of mine. Turns out she's the Archdruidess of Stonehenge, Victoria. So we had this, you know, just little lineup of 3 newbies going into our first crop circle ever. And all of us had the little hairs standing up and tingles on the top of the head. And we confirmed that, yeah, this wasn't make-believe. We were all really feeling it. And so I just put my hand up and I said, let's move silently and see what we're walking into. So it got stronger and stronger. And all of a sudden, the field was just laid down, and meticulous walls. And the lay, you could tell it was just a sweeping move, like a wind came and just took it down in one motion. And the feeling was so strong that it was my first experience to which I said, oh my God, these things are real. And it was so rainy and cold that we didn't go and lay down in the middle like I've done in all the other crop circles pretty much. But I began with a boom on a rainy day when you couldn't really take a lot of time. And I knew from that moment that I was left curious. So the following year, I came back alone, and I spent 9 weeks in B&Bs right there in the epicenter, which since the 1980s has been centered around Wiltshire, England. Now, if the epicenter's there in Wiltshire, what's in the middle is this Averbury stone circle where 3 underground streams meet. So when you've got water intersecting, you've got a lot of energy there. When you've got a stone circle that's been sitting there for, you know, they can't decide how many thousands of years, but it's been there a long time, and people have walked, pilgrimaged across Europe to go to Stonehenge and to go to Avebury. So it's a very high frequency of spiritual energy for thousands of years of ritual. And that's why a lot of times, you know, when you go to a sacred site, you do feel that hair tingling on the top of your head and goosebumps to your toes, because you're in a place where the energies, the frequencies, and ultimately the plasma fields are having a lot more spinning frequency energies that you can feel. So I was new at all this, and I want to begin my explaining things that I have no training in science or biology, and I'm not going to pretend I do. I am, like I said, someone who's gone to more than 100 crop circles, and the way I learned to use a movie camera, I don't even know how. I didn't read the manual. Everything was really intuitive from the event that happened to me in 2007 on. So when I came back the next year, I knew that more crop circles appeared in Wiltshire, England than anywhere else on Earth. So it's the epicenter of crop circle appearances at this Averbury stone circle and 40 miles around it, which includes Glastonbury over there and Stonehenge over there, which we know gets a lot of crop circles. So again, why? Why are they appearing? And we mapped it out because there was a research center, and I quickly was so hooked on being there for weeks and weeks and weeks that they got to know me after the first 3 days, because I was there at the crack of dawn. When the hardcore ones were there, I was there. And we'd go to the research center, and if there was a new crop circle, the pilots would report it to the research center, and then he'd take a push pin and stick it on the map. So we'd get there first thing, have coffee and cake, and see where it was and get out the door straight over to the crop circle. And sometimes we'd be able to follow somebody a little easier for me, because you're on the other side of the car, you're on the other side of the road. That's hard enough, you know, with the roundabouts, but to find crop circles in undulating farmlands is a miracle in itself. And I remember the instructions were like, you know, you finally get to the farm, you know, and you can see the name of the farm on the gate, but then it says, you know, climb the fence where there's a broken branch and then walk 5 tram lanes to the left. And a tram lane is where the tractor drives and you can see the wheels. So you count 5 and then you just start walking and trust that it's going to be in there. But when you're on flat land or pretty simple undulation, you can't really see a crop circle unless you're on a hillside overlook looking down on the field. When we want to explore how many crop circles have happened that year or that week or up until now, we would hire the pilots of the microlight planes or spend a lot more and get a helicopter to film from. So with no training, I found that from the 2007 experience, which I'll talk about in a minute, I was autopilot on everything. I was also awakened at 3 o'clock every morning and given a lot of information that I remember it was something I'd never experienced, but I remember just sitting there receiving, and then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd know how to do things. So I did make the 8 films pretty much on my own. I hired editors to do the first few, and then I watched them so carefully, I figured out how to do the rest, because needless to say, there's less than money to be made in documentary films if you're telling the truth about something important. So in 2007, when I went back alone, I really showed my loyalty to whoever's making the formations and also whoever's flying those drones from the military, watching who's going in this crop circle. We started seeing drones, you know, not really in the early years, but in the recent ones, which made me quit going. So in 2007 and 8, it was unbelievably welcoming. There was 15 to 20 crop circles by June 1st. And by August, sometimes there were up to 50 crop circles in this epicenter area of southern England. So again, you get in your little plane. The first time I flew, the pilot looks at me and he goes, "Door on or door off?" And I was like, "Are you talking to me? What are you talking about?" And he said, "On your side, you want a door. All the pros don't have a door on their side of the microlight." And I said, okay. So no door on my side. Now we're up at 3,000 feet, and I'm supposed to lean out in this barely a seatbelt, no halter, and film crop circles. And I had to count on the pilot being gifted enough to sweep big enough circles and angle it enough so that I didn't really have to lean out of the plane, and the compression or whatever you would call it would keep me in my seat as he dipped really deeply. But then he'd always say, do you want to do another loop? Because I had a still shot camera. And I'd say yes. And he'd always say, look at me. And finally one day I said, why? And he said, trust me, look at me. Every time he did that extra loop. And finally once I said, why? And I looked over my shoulder, and we were so tipped that I couldn't breathe. And he said, that's why. So I learned quickly, what to do and not to do when getting in those little teeny planes with no door on my side. The seatbelt was literally like whatever one of you guys is wearing, that's a leather belt with a little hinge hook. I mean, that's all it was. It wasn't even an airplane seatbelt. It was an understatement. So at the end of that summer, I had been around so much that everybody knew me. And they'd call me first thing in the morning when there was a new crop circle. So I was a frontliner, totally filming everything, filming all the real croppies, which I only say my perception. But people that were there day after day after day with me, staying forever, laying quietly, talking about what we feel, what we see, but really also having that intuition to see more than what we're seeing, because there's a lot multidimensionally going on in these crop circles. So at the end of 2007, it was early August, I laid in a crop circle in a place called Sugar Hill. The farm was Sugar Hill. The formation, I don't know where that photo is, but it was a really ornate crop circle. And I pulled up and I could look at the overlook, and it was down there in the field. So you don't realize how many miles, we don't realize, that we end up walking. If you're going to go to 3 crop circles in a day, first you have to see them, find out where they are, and then you have to hope to be able to get to them in a huge wheat field that's sometimes almost as tall as I was. I'm 5'2". So I could see this beautiful formation. It just took my breath away. So I hiked down to the field, and I was all alone because I wanted to be. I don't want to talk when I'm filming. I don't want to talk when I'm going in a crop circle. I want to just experience. So Sugar Hill, I walked around the formation, and then I lay down, and I don't remember much more. I don't know how long I was gone or passed out, or I don't know what words to use, but what I know is that when I opened my eyes, I was laying on my back looking at the sky, and I saw things I had never seen before, which is a visually multidimensional I was seeing all these little moving things in the sky, which I can still see today. Some of them are circles, some of them are worm-like shapes, and some of you probably see them when you relax your eyes, lean back, and just keep watching and relaxing more. But I took a lot of groups outside, and I'd say 60% of them saw what I see. And again, as you guys know with your advanced brains, all you have to do sometimes is let go and see something new. But this was phenomenal. And I'm laying there thinking, oh God, I'm hallucinating. What happened to me in this crop circle? My face is all sunburned. I didn't know how long I'd been laying there. But when I got up, I was thinking differently, and everything in me felt different. And from that day forward, I started making movies. And it began that day at the Sugar Hill Crop Circle when something definitely happened to me. And it wasn't until my 8th final film, Crop Circle Diaries, that I would love for all of you to see, that I realized that what happened to me that day was that I had been taken. And I didn't know where I had gone until the 2016 experience, when somebody showed me this artist's incredible work, and I started staring at his photo of a crystal castle, and it was someplace I'd been before, and the colors were outrageous, and the 5 pillars with the star on top was so familiar, and all of a sudden the tears started flowing, and I went, oh my God, this is where they took me. So it was almost 10 years later, it was 9 years later, that I saw a painting from an artist who had also been there. And so I was desperately seeking his phone number to contact him to say, what inspired you? Where is this? What is this place? Because I've been there also. And he ended up saying it was the Akashic Records Library. Makes sense, right? Okay, so I'm totally loving his library of other images. And I'm really focused on this crop circle of the Crystal Castle with the 5 pillars and the stars on top, like, wow. And his images are all colorful, watery. And I knew that I was underwater, but I could still breathe. And then we went into this big room and all this memory came back. And it was 10:30 at night, which is 3:30 in the morning that summer in England. And I was really talking about it with a lot of passion to a friend, like, oh my God, and then I remembered, you know. So I get up in the morning and I had an email from the Crop Circle Connector, which is, they keep you abreast of any crop circle that happens. If you guys are interested, join. It's cropcircleconnector.com. It's 21 pounds or $30, $40. And every time there's a new crop circle anywhere in the world, you will get an email with fabulous information and photos. So I get my first email in the morning, it was Crop Circle Connector, new crop circle. I tapped the link and opened it up, and it was the Crystal Castle. It was the Crystal Castle, and it had 5 pillars, stars on top, and there were 5 drips coming out under each, one under each pillar. There wasn't a circle in sight. Did I lose everybody? Oh no, there we are. There's the Crystal Castle. So there was no circle on top, there was only the castle, but look at that, 5 pillars. I mean, it was incredible. And I remembered I was doing a lot of interviews online, and I said to my audience, there's not one circle. I'll go back to that photo because it's really a very interesting thing. And I knew that I had, only because of my connection with crop circles, somehow manifested one with my plasma field, with my conscious mind, with my enthusiasm. They created this. So now I'm on the air saying, not one circle. I can't believe it. You know, even the drips below the crop circle are tear shape. I mean, you can see they're not circles either. And the very next day I woke up and there was a huge crop circle on top, bigger than the castle, with a goddess inside. To me, that's a goddess symbol. I don't know about you guys, but I just, of course, got all gimpy and started crying like, oh my gosh, okay, I really have to stay with this because I'm being used. I don't mean being used, I'm being communicated with, is what I mean to say. And I'm not sure why this is saved as, oh, I love this, as Nazca lines, but yeah, it's a crop circle in England for sure. So actually having you hold this, yeah, I mean, that's better probably than me holding up photos. But that got me so hooked, and that was the story I completely tell, the whole Crystal Castle thing in Crop Circle Diaries, my final film. But look at the size of the goddess in the circle, and it took 2 weeks before she opened her arms, is what I see with those 2 lengthy things coming out the side. They look like little points of perhaps arms from her diamond heart. And again, maybe I'm imagining it, but I don't think so. It manifested right after I said it. And my first film, The Wake Up Call, anybody listening? ? Featured my favorite croppies, Janet Osebard and Bert Janssen. And they're from Amsterdam. And they had met with a group of croppies and talked about a tile of a church that was a sacred pattern, and the very next day it showed up in a crop circle. So what we're having here that I've seen is evidence of real crop circles happening through the minds of people that are spending a lot of time in the fields. I only speak for myself. Bert Janssen and Janet Osebard. I don't know if you recognize her name. She is the one that produced that fabulous Fall of the Cabal. I trust a lot of you have seen it. If you haven't, please do. Fall of the Cabal. It's on YouTube. She is so brilliant. Janet Osebard, Ossebaard. And she and I and Barbara Lamb and Bert Janssen were the croppies that were in the formations every day. One of my most astounding discoveries was not mine, but I think this is probably one of the most incredible crop circles of all time. This one was found in a field after a very rainy night, and it has 409 perfect circles that appeared, and there were no footsteps around the field the next day. My friend Charles Mallet, who ran the research center, said he was there at 5:30 in the morning. There were no footprints, which is really incredible. So you got 409 circles, and all of you are probably mathematical enough to realize we're looking at a spiral of Fibonacci sequences. Now, the mathematics were perfect. There was no wrong circle size. There was no oblong circle. How do they do this on a rainy night with no, anyway, a lot of people would like to say, oh, military, you know, they're shooting it down from satellites. They're doing laser crop circles. Oh, well, go look at BBC or any, you know, generic crop circle movie, and they will show you a couple of guys with boards and ropes making a crop circle. But if you go into a crop circle and you look at the lay of the wheat, if it's been made by humans, you will always see broken wheat every 3 feet in a line, because they've got a board, 2 ropes, and they stomp down on the board to lay the wheat down in the pattern the way they want it to go. Then they lift up and they stomp down again a few feet further, and they break a straight line of wheat 3 feet further. So, you know, when we go into a crop circle, a lot of us do things differently. For me, I am all about what it feels like. The hair going up, the tingles. I'm all about the energy, the enhanced electromagnetic field, the spinning energies, the plasma, what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing. Whereas all my buddies are down on their knees, digging through the wheat, trying to, oh, that's above where I got taken. There's Sugar Hill down there. That was an amazing day. So, oh, you're going so quick. Okay, we're gonna do like one photo at a time, but I guess I'll save the science for later. So when you've got 409 circles laid flawlessly on a rainy night with no footsteps, it wasn't done by a couple of guys with boards and ropes, or even a team, Satan, that has, you know, 4 or 10 people. It wasn't a team of people that could do 409 circles during those 2-3 hours of light in the middle of the night. So they're doing it in the darkness. They're training their eyes, the people with boards and ropes, or they're doing it in broad daylight when the BBC says, hey, let's do a crop circle special, or Ancient Aliens says, hey, let's do a crop circle special. They'll hire a couple of dummy actors that'll go out there with boards and ropes and show you, yeah, I can do it, but it's not that good. So the distraction is one of the first places where you have to say, why aren't they letting the science get out? Now here I am, I'm in 10 crop circles a day, no, 3 to 10, only if I'm flying, you know, 10. But I was so busy and I never knew the science. I had made 7 films and I never knew the science until I was introduced to Penny Kelly. So in 2014, I was the crop circle speaker in Canada and the USA at all the events for probably 10 years. And I loved it. And I brought usually an average of 300 crop circle images for every presentation, which was really a lot. And it kind of overdosed people's minds. But when we talk about Umberto coming up after me, he shows this fabulous crop circle that exactly matched a technology that he was creating. Umberto, hola. Oh no, you're Italy, I'm sorry. Right, Italy? I thought of Spain for a moment, I'm sorry. So what I did on my conversations when I would speak at the International UFO Congress or the thing in the desert that I don't promote anymore, or all the different events in Canada, there were some great ones. I absolutely loved it. And when I was doing it, all the greats were still alive. When I was speaking, I was also filming, I think, the brightest minds in ufology. And what's sad that I know firsthand is that this movie, which I filmed in 2008 at the International UFO Congress Convention with 29 speakers, as I look at the list, most of them died in the last 5 years. Now, I don't know if you guys have been watching or listening to the, I'm going to call them the elders compared to the new actors, but ufology doesn't interest me at all anymore. I was there filming all these amazing people, Robert Dean, Randall Stevens, God, who's on my list? Oh my God, early Giorgio Tsoukalos, but Barbara Lamb, who else is missing? Cynthia Crawford's gone. Donald Ware is probably gone. The main ones that I miss are Stanton Friedman and Jim Mars. Jim Mars was probably my favorite, and he really knew a little too much. And I think a lot of people were removed in a very quick and surprising way in the last 5 years to make room for the circus that has come to town. And I know because I was hit more than once with a silent weapon that has really changed my life. And I say it very bravely, but I will never again say who threatened me the day before because I don't want to get in trouble again. But I know firsthand that this stuff is going down and they're doing it to people that are like us, smarter than the average bear, willing to talk about what we know to advance the world of technologies. So the thing about crop circles, in 2016, I spoke at the International UFO Congress Convention, and a woman came up to me off the wall and she said, "You have to speak at my event. I'll pay you whatever you want." And I was like, "What?" Okay. So I flew to Michigan like a month later and spoke at her event. Night one, a man comes up to me and says, "I need to take you somewhere to meet someone. Will you come with me?" And I didn't know him, so I was like, no, but I'll ask people, you know, who you are, and maybe tomorrow night. So the next night, there he was at the edge of the couch waiting. And I said, "Have you seen my films?" "No." "Did you watch my talk today?" "No." And I said, "How do you know who I am and why you need to introduce me to this lady who's in the middle of nowhere?" And he said, "I just know I do." And I said, "Well, people spoke highly of you, so I'll go with you." So I get in his car. His name is Stan. Nice guy, you know. And so we drive half an hour. We get to this beautiful farm. And for 4 hours, we sat around the round table of Penny Kelly. And we ate cherries and talked about the world. Never did it cross my mind that this was William Levengood's real partner for the last 16 years of his life that I was sitting with. She never mentioned it once. So at 2 in the morning, I said, "Oh God, Stan, you have to take me home because I have to speak early in the morning." So I handed her one of my movies about crop circles, and she says, "Oh great, let me give you one of my books." And of course we didn't talk about what we needed to that time, but I said, "Oh, you write books?" And she says, "Well, yeah, I've written 23. And I'm thinking, oh, So she hands me a book, and right there on the cover, I didn't look, but it said Penny Kelly and William Levengood, the only scientists in the world that proved crop circles were not only real, but all these amazing things about the superseeds. So here I am through the pages, and I see these crop circle nodes. And I said, "Wait, what? Why is that in your book?" And she looks at Stan and she said, "You didn't tell her who I was, did you?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Who are you?" And that's when she told me that she had been working with the only great scientist for the last 16 years who died a year ago. So I was like, oh, wow, I have to come back. Please invite me. I really need to talk to you about this because I make movies about crop circles. And she said, I know. So I'm looking at Stan like, why didn't you tell me? Anyway, the punchline was he drives me back to the hotel where I was staying, and he parks in front, and I walk up to the front door, and these two ladies are standing there watching me, and the psychic that runs the psychic whole thing of this event just nodding and laughing. And I said, what's so funny? Hi. Now it's 2:30 in the morning. They're smoking cigarettes outside, and I'm tired. And she said, the man next to you, he has a message. And I'm looking around like, oh, where's Stan? He wasn't anywhere. So she says, tall, silver hair, silver goatee. I was like, okay. I had no idea what Lefty Levengood looked like. So she says, he has a message for you. And the message was, I orchestrated this and I'm really glad you came. Now, at that moment, I said, oh my gosh, wait, stop. I'll be right back. And I ran through the parking lot, flailing arms, trying to get this man's attention. And luckily he looked back and he backed up before leaving. And I said, what did William Levengood look like? And he said, tall, silver hair, silver goatee. Why? And so there I was, like completely dumbfounded that Lefty, William Levengood, had walked up with me in a less dense plasma field of William Levengood. So Penny refers to the plasma field, which is not scientific like you guys might be thinking, but how I know it, again, unscientific. But for us, the plasma field is, the fact is everything is plasma in the explanation that I've had. And that as we think, feel, speak, all that energy goes out through plasma fields, through different energies that other people can pick up. And when I got back to her farm a month later, I couldn't wait because it was Lefty's wake. So I got to go back into his home, into his lab, and see all these machines that they'd been working with. And the lady that was running the funeral did not want me to bring my big camera in, which I had to respectfully say, oh, okay, can I just bring this little small Instamatic? And she said, sure. And then she went out with Penny to talk about the ceremony. And you've never seen somebody my age snap that many photos, under tables, on top of things. I was all over the place. I had 83 photos in about 5 minutes. I was panting by the time I got done. But what was interesting was how many orbs were in the photos in very specific areas. Now, a lot of people don't believe orbs or whatever, but I have had so much experience with balls of light and balls of energy and rainbow balls and different colors that I made this movie called Orbs and Light Beings. The elders were correct. And this image that's on my cover is actually my father, who died when I was 16. And it has shown up many times in very specific places, usually around my harp when I was playing music. So anyway, Penny invites me to her home, and the very first night I'm laying in bed, the wake is tomorrow, and I've been already at his house and in his lab, and I lay down to go to sleep, and I saw William Levengood walk through the wooden door. I'm in bed, now I know what he looks like. I'm at Penny's house, and he walked right through the wooden door, and I saw him, and I remember pulling up my covers and being a little bit edgy, and I said, I know who you are. And he said the very same words. He said, I'm glad you're here. I orchestrated this. So I'm just completely ditzed out. And in the morning, Penny and I had coffee, and I was kind of shaky. And I told her what happened, and she goes, oh, yeah, he's always playing around, so she's used to it. But what we're talking about now is that Lefty didn't totally leave. And Lefty felt that Lefty is William Levengood's nickname that Penny called him, so I refer to him as that. And he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed around and he played, and he brought Penny and I together. So when I went to the wake, I picked up all kinds of wonderful little memories. This is him when he was younger. But I have his smoking pipe. I have his alien bookmark. I have bizarre little things because for me it was important, now that I know him, now that he worked this hard from the other side to bring Penny and I together, I figured I may as well bring his energies into my house. So as I was making the movie, his stuff was everywhere and I could really feel it. So what I learned from Penny when we finally talked after the incredible wake was that during the time that when they were experimenting, people were sending them wheat stalks, corn stalks, barley, oats, Brussels sprouts, an arch bent over of Brussels sprouts, which is like bending a tree. And they were all sent to the lab where they were tested by Penny and Lefty repeatedly, because you can't say something scientifically until it shows up repeatedly with the same results, as you guys all know. What they found with these magnetic testings of these crop circle bits, these bent nodes, was that there was water in the stalk, which all plants are made, she says, of cellulose, and inside the cellulose stalk of the plant is liquid. And what happened when these crop circles were formed was something hit, and the liquid boiled and instantly dropped the arch over on 100,000 or 10,000, depending on how big the formation was and how many pieces of crop were there. They were all tipped. They were all bent with intention in the right direction. How is this happening? If it's not broken wheat and you can feel the hair stand up on your arms, it is a real crop circle. And I can tell you, out of the more than 100 I was in, most of them were real. So why are they hiding it? They're hiding it because science proved in the lab of William Levengood and Penny Kelly that the seeds inside crop circles, when he did it right, and it was an accident that he had happen in the lab, but they discovered that the seeds are super seeds that are growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. And it was consistent. So these super seeds needed to be recreated, and they couldn't do it just from seeds going into the I forget what it's called, but they kept testing and testing. And it wasn't until Lefty was cleaning his desk about months later, going into the experiment, months later, he's cleaning out a drawer, and in the back of the drawer, he found a pile of crop circle seeds in an envelope. And there it was in the bottom of the envelope, and they were all shrunken. And he said, "No proper seedsman would ever plant these seeds." But that little voice that made all my films was that little voice that talked to him. And it said, "Don't throw those seeds away." So it was that day that Lefty took those shriveled crop circle seeds that had been in darkness, in dryness, with no energy put toward them, in the back of a drawer for 3 to 6 months. He couldn't remember. But when he put those seeds in the germination tank, in the germination chamber, they grew like gangbusters. And when he realized that the nutrition was almost twice as much per plant, they knew that they had something here. And for that reason alone, I believe they've lied about Crop Circle all these years. And they've hidden my films with, I can't even believe how blacklisted I've been, how much I've had to pay with my health. And today is one of the few times I've come back to talk about it, but having a group of scientists that are smart enough to read between the lines, let's talk about charge density plasma. I saw the machine. So Lefty, he's in his lab and he's going, okay, now we know that we got spinning plasma vortices with all these different layers of frequencies that are creating the superseeds to happen. How can we recreate this in the lab? And I want to briefly read you his words, because I think that he says it very profoundly. Lefty began to theorize that within the plasma vortex, there were a number of different energies operating. His theory was that within these counter-rotating vortices, there's a whole stack of interactive energies, each with their own distinct boundary conditions: electromagnetic, iron electron avalanche energies, and areas of convective stability that were very stable and coherent. Plants continued to thrive, even bent over. There were other areas that were chaotic, such as microwave energies, which may have been the military trying to create crop circles. But when the plant was hit, the crop was injured and it died. When the crop is a real crop circle, it's bent over and it continues to live and grow these amazing super seeds. So here's more. This includes the electrical fields, rivers, and currents that are always there and always interacting as the energies move across the earth. This is also added to these spinning plasma fields. The distribution of particles, such as iron in the soil, which I found, exactly matched the mathematical formulations of counter-rotating vortices and the way they throw material out from the center. Lefty was convinced that the vortex was the form or the active action that was happening to create a crop circle. He discovered it was plasma by using a plant and waving a magnet up and down to get the same results repeatedly. He said, this is a charge density plasma, and it's a plasma vortex. When I met Stephen Greer in a crop circle in 2010, he had a group, and I was filming with my boyfriend at the time. And what I noticed, which really intrigued me and inspired me with Lefty's explanation here, was that Stephen had two compasses, and north was pointing that way on one, and north was pointing that way on the other, and they were side by side. In other words, it was counter-rotating vortices within the same plasma field. So why is it that when I film crop circles at night, we see big orange balls of light? What's that? And what's a plasma vortex got to do with those big orange balls of light when in the morning we see a fresh crop circle? What I learned from Penny, which was fascinating, was that the crop circles are created by not only these levels of different energetic frequencies, but also by human consciousness. That's one more layer with distinct boundary conditions that's in this setup vortex of spinning plasma fields. So you've got me over here in America going, you know, Crystal Castle, and then boom, they show it in a crop circle. And then I'm going, oh my God, no circles, and boom, there's a crop circle. How does that happen? Well, I was so devoted that I was like straight in communication, but with who? Who is sending up these plasma vortices of spinning fields? Well, bottom line, thank God I don't know science, is that all I do is listen to that little voice at 3 in the morning or every minute when I'm in the fields. It is the earth herself that is creating crop circles. And when people think, oh, the earth, you know, they don't realize she's alive, she's energized, she feels all of our frequencies, she feels the drilling of oil fields, she feels the dirt of chemtrails, she feels the disrespect, but she also feels the love and blessings of those of us sitting in the Averbury Stone Circle in a group going, we really want to see a crop circle, please show us, you know, and then boom, she'll throw one. So
I need to interrupt a bit because, you know, Umberto has been here for quite a while now. We are taking his sessions time. So we only have about 7 minutes for the Q&A because it's so interesting to listen to you and we couldn't stop you earlier. So over to you now, co-chair, Dr. Fresser, will you take over the microphone?
Thank you very much. Probably the first question that'll come up is the amount of organic versus inorganic material in the crop circles. And so we take a look at the why I'm asking this question is most of the crop circles are in the organic portion of it. But you mentioned that the iron played a part of it. Did you find any other crystals or any other items in these crop circles besides the organic portion tipping over?
I found very strange chalk stones that were shattered, and they had they were surrounding slate. So it was slate surrounded by chalk, and some of them were gray, Some of them were tan brown. Some of them were white. And I have bottles of them. I should have grabbed, I've got them. Oh, I see some over there. Actually, I think the rocks are upstairs. But yeah, the stones were in every crop circle I went to.
Interesting. The next question that comes up, we've got several in our R&D group that are pretty decent artists, and they have been really showing off some fantastic stuff. And what we're finding is a lot of the work that they're working on right now uses the flower of life as a base, multiple circles, one inside, and then projecting images and started with like plutonic solids and that kind of stuff up over the top of it. What we're finding is as we do the drawings, the images become three-dimensional, and some of the work that you're doing in the crop circles has that three-dimensional properties to it. And I was wondering, oh my, yes, yeah, they'll totally dig that one. Okay, and
the thing that I didn't get to, which I want to briefly say, is
sure.
I see 60 of them, and you can see takeoff. You can see, yeah. I mean, when I did my talks at those events, when I did my spinning formulations for free energy, or are they spinning below a spaceship? I wasn't sure. All I know is I spun a lot of crop circles. I have a whole collection of, I mean, endless amounts that you never know that when you spin this, what it turns into. You never know when you spin this, what it turns into. Nothing like the photo was. This one with the Fibonacci spirals, whoa. I mean, yeah. So many of them, you look at them and people are like, what does that say? Well, it doesn't say anything until you spin it. In my opinion, a lot of them were for that.
When you say spin, do you mean physically, like spin them on like a lazy suit?
Put a pin in the middle of the photo and spin it on your corkboard, and you will see, whoa. Or
Okay.
my movie, The Shift Has Hit the Fan, I spun some crop circles, and it's powerful. Yeah, I think there's a couple clips in that movie where I spin a lot of crop circles. But again, it's another dimension where we're looking at it, we're going, I don't see anything, but then you spin, it's like, whoa, it's propulsion.
Interesting. Real quickly, we've got one other question which runs into spinning fields, plasma fields. Did you have camera problems when you went into the crop circles? If you did, how did you go about fixing that problem so you could record? And did you have any problems with the aircrafts when you flew over these crop circles?
I never had one problem.
Excellent.
Yeah. The only problem I had was when I was filming Patricia Corey one day, and a helicopter came over and circled around us. Yep, there's the little plane I flew in. And little airplane, circled around, and I thought, oh, somebody like us just filming, they'll go. And then they left. But then the second one showed up, and it was a double prop, boom, 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 big black military helicopter. And it circled so low intentionally to destroy both of our hair at about 25 feet above our head. And it circled for at least 10, 15 minutes, which I knew was to irritate us, to stop us from filming. And I finally bent over and gave them the money shot, a double birdie from a grown-up. I mean, I just couldn't stand it another minute. And yeah, I was interfered with a few times.
Great. Do you have another film in the works?
I do not. What I learned after proving that crop circles were supersedes, creating supersedes, was that I needed to go away quietly and shut my mouth. It's been very difficult. And I still spoke up a little. I don't know if any of you know me, but I was sued for $1 million by a company because I didn't close my mouth quick enough. And $100,000 later, I defended my vexatious lawsuit. But I have paid a price for being Patti Greer, for being honest and honorable about what I know and feel. And I'm curious, you know, what circus animal they're going to throw out being the new crop circle expert and go back to two guys with boards and ropes and everybody's drunk and there's nothing to see here. They are making super seeds. And what I didn't get to, but I have to say before you're all gone, I saw the machine. Lefty re-engineered crop circle spinning plasma vortices. He created a charge density plasma machine, which if any of you are super smart, spend $5 and go watch Crop Circle Diaries. And when we're in the lab and you see this, I'm giving it away. These two round metal things, and they're connected by a wire by this thing that says 30, which is, I don't know what that means, but you guys will. That is the charge density plasma machine that can bring back our food supply on Earth in a short period of time. But you have to do the specific steps. And I'm looking for somebody to bring this with. I don't want to get hurt. I want you guys to do the grunt work and the promotions, but we've got this. It's one more thing, like, as you know, free energy. When we organize the plasma fields in a specific manner, we can create these charge density fields at 30% something that are going to recreate dried, worn out, shredded, exhausted seeds to become something that we need once we get rid of Monsanto and Gates, and don't even start me.
Very good. Crystal, I think I'll hand it back to you.
Yes. Oh, Patty, that's so good to hear and to listen to you. It's really super. I think we have to move on very quickly, although I do have some questions, but I think I'll do that privately because time is of the constraint right now, because Umberto has been waiting on the site for a while and I'm sure he's got loads to share, and we've got loads of questions as well. Oh, by the way, one last question. James Ring has a question. James, would you like to pick the mic up and ask your question before we close?
Yeah,
Hi, Jake.
Patty, I was wondering, did somebody buy the rights to your films and try to bury their distribution?
Yep. Can't say their name. Yeah, they've got my first 4 films locked away for 10 years. But next year I get them back. But, you know, it's what it is. I made 4 more films, but I'm so blacklisted that I've been known as the most hacked UFO filmmaker in history. I want to quickly just mention the one thing that I do want to say that is so fabulous, that has saved my life. It's something I take every day, and I wanted to promote it with you guys because it helps the brain. It's called C60 EVO. It's the evolution of the carbon-60 molecule. It's the only reason I think I'm still here when all my friends are gone. I've been taking C60 for 3.5 years every day, and this stuff works. So I won't promote, I just want to say I really highly recommend it for smart people that want to stay well and keep your brains fresh. C60evo.com. So thank you. Very nice to meet all of you. Umberto, you've got a wonderful audience, and I thank you for your time, and I hope you got something out of it. Crystal knows how to reach me. If there's somebody in your group that says, I seriously want to do this with you and Penny, we can work something out, because somebody needs to.
Absolutely. Yeah. We thank you for your bravery and for doing what you do and bringing this to the well, you know, to the masses, and to help awaken humanity as well, in a way that they ought to know that what this is all about. Okay, so without much ado, I think we will close this first session. And now that, oh, I want to say, folks, okay, if you have questions, I did hear somebody saying something in the background. Was it you, Trish? Tricia, you have a question for Patty? One last one before we close? Oh, it wasn't you. Okay, all right then. Sorry. So there being no other business, now this first session of the 77th FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the second session, where Umberto Baudo will be speaking about free energy devices using crop circle designs. Thank you so much, Patty. Thank you. for everything that you had shown and talked about here in FESIG Meeting. We really, truly appreciate it. And those of you who've got questions for Patty, please write to me and I'll present it to her. Thank you. Namaste.